She was forced to take a human as a mate. Now she can't live without him. Zara Ka pressed her scaled palm against the observation deck's viewport, her golden eyes reflecting the distant blue marble that had become her obsession. Earth, the planet that had changed everything. 3 cycles ago, she had been the proud daughter of Admiral Vex Ka, commander of the Kalari Imperial Fleet. The marriage alliance with the humans had been nothing more than a strategic necessity, a distasteful political arrangement to secure peace between their species after the devastating border wars. She had entered the ceremonial chamber with her head held high and contempt burning in her chest, expecting to endure a primitive creature barely worthy of her attention. She had not expected Marcus Chen. Still, watching Earth? His voice carried that peculiar human warmth that had first unsettled her. Zara Ka didn't turn as he approached, but her secondary heartbeat quickened, a physiological response that would have horrified her younger self. "The terraforming project on Kidan 7 requires my attention," she replied coolly, though they both knew she was lying. She had been staring at his homeworld for the better part of an hour. Marcus settled beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his human skin. Where Kalari ran cold and efficient, humans burned with an inner fire that seemed to power their impossible resilience. "Your father called again. He wants to know when you're returning to the core worlds." Zara Ka's throat pouch fluttered, a sign of agitation she couldn't suppress. "This is my assignment. The joint colonies require oversight. The joint colonies have been running smoothly for 2 years. Marcus's hand found hers on the viewport, his fingers intertwining with her longer, more delicate ones. "That's not why you're staying." She finally turned to face him, taking in the features that had become more precious to her than all the crystal spires of her home world. His dark eyes held depths that her people's vertical pupils could never achieve. His face bore the asymmetrical scars from the asteroid mining accident that had nearly killed him 6 months ago, scars that told the story of his refusal to abandon his human crew even when his Kalari supervisors had ordered evacuation. That was when she truly understood what the Kalari High Command had failed to grasp during the war. Humans didn't fight for territory or resources or even honor. They fought for each other. "You could have died," she whispered, the memory still raw. She had found herself praying to gods she didn't believe in, begging the universe not to take. This strange, stubborn creature who had somehow become the center of her existence. But I didn't. His thumb traced the delicate scaling along her knuckles. "Besides, someone had to make sure you didn't start an interspecies incident by threatening to disintegrate the rescue commander." Despite herself, Zara Ka's throat pouch rippled with what passed for Kalari laughter. She had indeed been prepared to turn her plasma rifle on anyone who suggested abandoning the mining crew. The intensity of her reaction had surprised everyone, including herself. "My father believes you have corrupted me," she said, leaning into the warmth of his presence. "He says humans are a primitive species that prey upon the emotions of their betters." "And what do you think?" Zara Ka considered this. In her youth, she had believed Kalari superiority was self-evident. They lived longer, thought faster, controlled a dozen star systems. But 3 years with Marcus had taught her that intelligence couldn't be measured in processing speed or technological advancement. She had watched him solve problems that stumped Kalari engineers not through superior intellect, but through sheer creative stubbornness. She had seen him forge alliances between species that had been enemies for centuries, simply because he refused to accept that peace was impossible. Most importantly, she had felt the way he loved, completely, irrationally, with a devotion that transcended logic or self-preservation. "I think," she said slowly, "that my father has never seen a human refuse to give up on something they care about." Marcus smiled, and she felt that familiar flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with biology and everything to do with the way he looked at her as if she were the most remarkable being in the galaxy. "The High Command has ordered me to return. For reassignment," she continued. "They believe extended contact with humans has compromised my objectivity." "Have they?" Zaraka moved closer until she could feel his heartbeat against her palm. Steady, strong, utterly, perfectly human, completely. "So what are we going to do about it?" She met his eyes, seeing the same fierce determination that had driven him to risk everything for his crew. It was infectious, this human refusal to accept defeat. "We're going to file a formal protest with both governments. We're going to demand recognition of our bond under interspecies law. And if they refuse—" She paused, hardly believing the words coming from her own mouth. "We're going to resign our commissions and find a world where two people can be together without governments deciding their worth." Marcus's grin was radiant. "Sounds like a plan, though I should warn you, humans are terrible at following other people's rules when those rules don't make sense." "Good," Zaraka replied, pressing her forehead against his in the human gesture of affection she had grown to cherish. "I'm learning to be terrible at it too." As they stood together watching Earth turn in the void, Zaraka reflected on the cosmic irony of her situation. She had been forced into this union to maintain peace between their peoples. Now she was prepared to risk everything to keep it. Her father had been right about one thing. Humans were indeed a corrupting influence. They corrupted you with hope, with the dangerous belief that the universe could be better than it was, with the radical notion that love was worth fighting for, even when fighting seemed impossible. She was completely corrupted, and she had never been happier.